Never throw anything away, Harry. Where's my 500-year diary? I remember jotting notes on the Sontarans. It's a mistake to clutter one's pockets, Harry. Okay, maybe not one of the best quotes, but go figure. Hello and welcome back to the Doctor Who Marathon. I'm your host McEdam, and today we're going to be talking about the Sontaran Experiment, written by Bob Baker and David Martin, and directed by Rodney Bennett. This is a two-part adventure, which I don't own on DVD, so I can't show you the cover. I do apologise. This is the only two-parter of the 1970s, and it is the first two-parter since way back in the Rescue, during the first Doctor's second season. So we're talking miles, years ago. And the next one won't be until, I believe, the Black Orchid. I could be wrong. But anyway, so the Sontaran Experiment sees the return of the Sontarans, and it also deals a little bit with the story arc that started in the Arc of Infinity, the Arc in Space, in which the Doctor, Sarah and Harry have landed back on Earth trillions of years after humans abandoned it and went onto the space station Nerva. It seems like the fan base isn't particularly too keen on this story. It seems to be forgotten as just a bland, a bit dull two-part adventure. But I think if you look into it deep enough, there is a particularly deep story about human survival, and just, I don't know, I don't think it's as bad as people make it out to be. I think the fact that it's just a two-parter makes it feel like it's less important than other stories, and it also doesn't help that it is sandwiched between two of the most highly praised Doctor Who stories, that being the Ark in Space and Genesis of the Daleks. So yeah, there's a lot against this story, and I used to really love this story. I don't know what it is, but I seem to really enjoy two-parters in Classic Who, especially the ones where a lot of people don't seem to enjoy them. I'll get onto them when I talk about the two from the Fifth Doctor era. And this one I had really enjoyed for the longest of time, but doing this marathon, it has done, the problems do stand out a bit. The first problem is really its setting. When the Doctor lands on Earth with Sarah and Harry, Earth is just basically covered with like fields and grass because of erosion and nature basically taking effect. Now, fun fact, this story is actually filmed all on location, and it's filmed on, what's it called? The Drumore. What's really cool about this is that this place is actually the setting for The Hounds of Baskervilles, the story by a Sherlock Holmes story by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. So that's really cool. But I don't think the directing here by Rodney Bennett is particularly strong. The setting becomes starting to look really bland and forgettable, and there's not a lot of great camera angles. There's nothing really memorable in terms of the story's visual appeal. And I think that's maybe one of the factors against this story. The second factor is its side characters. Doctor, Sarah and Harry on this planet, on Earth, thinking it's been abandoned for thousands of years. However, Harry soon falls into a trap made by humans who have just been abandoned Earth and have recently just come back in an expedition. And they don't believe any life is here, so they believe that the Doctor, Sarah and Harry are actually some sort of rival expedition or something like that. I don't think it's described very well. But it slowly explains that there's also another race here, the Sontarans. I love how there's only one Sontaran again. It makes the Sontaran seem a lot stronger than most Doctor Who villains, as with Daleks and Cybermen, they're cool, don't get me wrong, but most stories have more than two of them. I mean, the Dalek had Dalek way later on in 2005, and I don't think there's been a televised story with the Cybermen, with just one Cyberman. That would have been a really cool idea. I would love to see that. But anyway, the Sontaran here is played by the same guy who played him in the Time Warrior. However, and they make reference to the fact that he looks identical to Commander Lynx. And it makes sense because Sontarans are supposed to be a clone race. However, it doesn't make any sense here because they used a new prosthetic mask for the Sontaran. So it gives him a completely different look, a much more paler looking Sontaran. And much more bulkier, I think, in my opinion. So, yeah, that doesn't really work in its story's favour. But and the mask does kind of seem a bit corny compared to the previous one. The previous one, it made look a bit dirty and a bit grutted, but it's grounded and you can really believe from 1970s that this is a alien creature. But here the mask seems a bit too clean cut compared to its predecessor, so I don't think it really works there. So it turns out that the Sontaran comes to Earth to try and examine the humans so that they can plan, so Sontarans can plan a invasion. So the Sontaran is basically a scientist, and he's doing some experiments on some humans. On one of them he kidnaps and let go, and one of them he basically holds him prisoner. And basically watches him die. I think he says he starves him for 9 days. So yeah, it's pretty messed up in that department. But these human characters, the big problem with this story is that the human characters are just not interesting. They're bland, they're forgettable, and the personalities are basically the same. They're all these grungy, I don't know. One of them actually befriends Sarah Jane and he's gone crazy as seen the Sontaran about. But apart from that, all of them basically feel like generic astronaut characters. The Doctor Who has done loads of times where they go onto a planet thinking it's uninhabitable and they get really tense that things conflict with what they imagined. So, yeah, it's pretty bland. However, it's fun to note that one of the astronauts is actually played by Glenn Jones. For those of you who don't remember, he is the writer for the Space Museum. What a weird cast. What a weird casting choice. He does a very good role, but like I said, because he doesn't have much interesting character, he does kind of blend into the background with the rest of them. I can't even remember which one he is. But anyway, so yeah, it's a two-part adventure, so not a lot goes on. It's mainly just a Sontaran who kidnaps these humans and does experiments on them about their weight and seeing how much pressure can crush their ribs. And Dr. Sarah and Harry are like, they get separated pretty quickly in episode 1 and then they reunite later on in part 2. And Tom Baker, in the last 2 stories, he had some brilliant quotes and his voice is always just a beauty to hear. But this story is probably the first time where he doesn't have such memorable quotes. I don't know if that's Glenn Jones writing or Tom Baker not giving it his all, as behind the scenes he actually injured his neck, and there was a really serious situation in which the Philip Hinchcliffe was worried that he would have to recast his star again, but it wasn't that serious, thankfully, and you can tell because Tom Baker wears his scarf like that, hiding his bad neck. So yeah, so I don't think Tom Baker's given it his all in this story, which might harm the experience. But there's a pretty decent action scene between him and the Sontaran later on in the story, though it is clear that by looking at it that the stunt double for Tom Baker looks nothing like him. Like in terms of just his body shape. Yeah, there's nothing really to talk about this one. There's a great theme going on about human survival, in which there were all these methods of surviving, and these people didn't believe about Nerva. They thought it was a legend. And yeah, and there was this whole deal with them just basically being slaves to the Sontaran, sorry. But there's nothing really deep, there's nothing really to break down. So this episode's going to be really short, so I'm probably just going to cut it here. So the Sontaran experiment, what did I think? I think it's actually a pretty decent watch. It's short, it's sweet, but there's nothing really to delve into. There's not a lot of thematic storytelling or even just pure entertainment. There's nothing over silly in it. You can clearly see that this is probably the cheapest story to be made of this season. So yeah, that's the Sontaran experiment. So join me next time where we get introduced to the creator of the Doctor's greatest enemy. So join me next time for Genesis of the Daleks. See you then on the Doctor Who Marathon. Ta-da!